Hi everyone, welcome to today's video. It's finally time for me to share my favourite books of 2023. So I read 102 books in 2023. My goal was 100 and I just managed to reach it, so I'm pretty proud of myself. I have got my top 10 books to share with you. Well, I say a top 10, it's actually kind of a top 9. My 10th book is a memoir and I just wasn't sure where to rank it. I feel a bit strange ranking a memoir along with all these other fiction books. It just felt strange to me to kind of rank that. So I'm going to talk about that one first and then go through my top 9 books essentially. The order of these, I'd say the top 3 are like set in stone, top 3 spots. The rest, the order could change on any given day, but this is just the order that I've gone with today. So we'll start off with that memoir, and it is Finding Me by Viola Davis. Viola Davis is one of my favourite actresses, probably my favourite actress actually. So I knew that I was going to enjoy this, but I didn't expect to love it as much as I did. It was fantastic. We are following Viola's life essentially, a lot focusing on her childhood and how she got to where she is today, and what she had to go through makes you realise what fantastic person she is, because her childhood was horrific and she went through so much. So the fact that she managed to get to where she is now is just incredible. And she doesn't sugarcoat anything. She really does say it how it is. But that's what I loved the most about it. And I would love to listen to this one as an audiobook because I'm pretty sure that she narrates it herself. And I think that she would do an amazing job at that. So this is one that I would like to reread via audio. But yes, this one was just absolutely fantastic. I think even if you're not familiar with anything that she is in, I would still pick this up because it's absolutely incredible and I loved it so much. Okay, so my number 9 is A Dowry of Blood by S.T. Gibson. I read this one in December. I read it so recently and I'm so shocked that it has made my favourite books. I loved this so much. I read it so quickly. I completely devoured it. It's following Constanta. I think I'm saying that right. Correct me if I'm wrong. And she is one of Dracula's brides. And this is essentially told in like a journal format. And she's addressing Dracula, although she doesn't name him in the book because of how he treated her, which I thought was an interesting thing to do. But yeah, this is talking to you, but the you in this is Dracula. And it's just so good. The writing in this was beautiful. And I just completely flew through it. As I said, I didn't want to put it down. I loved the characters. The character development in this was incredible. And it's made me want to read Dracula. I did start it, but Sunny, my dog, destroyed my copy while I was partway through. And I haven't got a new one yet. But once I do, I will be reading Dracula. And this has also just made me want to read anything to do with vampires. I feel like 2024 is going to be the year of vampires for me. I feel like they're quite trendy at the moment anyway, but I really do think that vampire books are going to be what I look out for in 2024 because this was just incredible and I loved it so much. In at number 8, we have got Sharp Objects by Gillian Flynn. I've spoken about this so much on this channel. If you are a regular viewer of mine, you'll know exactly what this is about because I talk about it so much. But this is following Camille, and she is a journalist. And in her hometown, there have been these murders of these little girls. And her boss thinks that she is the best person to go there because the town might feel more comfortable talking to her because she's from the town originally. Camille and her mother don't necessarily get along. Camille's not been back to this town for a really long time, so there are some very strained family relationships, very tense, and she's also meeting her sister for pretty much the first time. I think it's for the first time or for the first time in a long time. Her sister's now a teenager. So we are kind of seeing their relationship, but also Camille is kind of just coming to terms with everything going on in the town, everything that's happened, and interviewing people. It's just so interesting. It's very twisty. I didn't expect there to be a big twist. I thought we'd kind of cracked what was going on and then there would be no more, but there was a very good twist in this and I wasn't expecting it at all, so it completely shocked me and I would highly recommend this one. I thought it was really good. Number 7 is The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. This is my favourite romance of the year. Romance has not been the best for me this year, but this book has redeemed the genre for me completely. This is kind of a unique contemporary romance. So we're following our main character Clementine, and her aunt has recently passed away, and Clementine has inherited her aunt's apartment. Her aunt told her that this apartment was magic, but Clementine thought that this was just like a little story that she got told when she was younger and it wasn't true. However, this apartment allows you to time travel 7 years in the past. So one day Clementine goes back to the apartment and she comes across Ewan, who is 7 years in her past, and he was staying at her aunt's apartment at the time while her aunt was travelling. So they end up meeting each other and staying in this apartment at the same time. But whenever Clementine leaves the apartment, she goes back to her like normal timeline. So there's already some stakes there because we don't know how they're going to come together again by the end in the today timeline, but they do come across one another in Clementine's timeline, and it doesn't go as well as you would expect, but I just loved how they actually did end up coming together in the end. It was just so sweet. It was so cute. I loved it so much. Definitely my favourite romance of the year. And I think it had a really fun, unique spin, which made it a really great one to read. Highly, highly recommend this one. My number 6 book is Everyone in This Room Will Someday Be Dead by Emily Austen. This book made me laugh like no other book has before. I found it absolutely hilarious while finding it really quite sad, and also allowed me to reflect on myself at the same time. So it was a journey. This book was a complete journey for me. We are following this woman who, she really struggles with anxiety, and we really do go through her thought processes throughout this book, and the situation she gets herself in just made me laugh so much. But it was also kind of funny because I was reading how she'd get herself into these situations, and I thought if I was in her shoes I would do the exact same thing. So part of it was making me cringe, but part of me was just thinking like, yeah, how else would someone go about this situation? So one of these things is that our main character is a lesbian, and she ends up going to this church, and she goes to the church to actually get some like help and counselling for her anxiety and mental health, but the people there think she's there for a job interview. So she ends up going along with it because she doesn't want to tell them that she's not there for the interview, and she ends up getting the job. And she's having to come across all these people who are homophobic essentially, and they have very conservative views, and she's there interacting with them, pretending she's this straight woman because she thinks she'll lose her job otherwise. And it's just all sorts of things like that. Obviously there are some more intense and sad situations in this, but that was just something that I found hilarious. And yeah, this book made me laugh out loud. I found it so funny, and I really want to read some more of Emily Austen's work because the writing in this one was right up my street, and I really, really enjoyed it. In at number 5, we have got Early Morning Riser by Catherine Heine. This is the first book that I read in 2023, and it was a great start to the year because I gave it 5 stars, and it's been one that I keep remembering and referring back to throughout 2023. This one is following Jane, and she is with this man called Duncan, but Duncan has kind of a reputation in this town, and he's been with a lot of women, and everywhere Jane turns there's another woman that Duncan has been with. And this is kind of like a found family book because we're following Jane. There's not really much of a plot going on. It's kind of like a slice of life thing. It kind of reminded me of like a sitcom when I was reading it, which I really enjoyed. But again, we have some funny situations. So there's a tragic event that happens, which obviously is not funny, but we have this tragic event that happens, which kind of brings all of these characters together. So Jane ends up spending so much time with Duncan's ex-wife, and she kind of becomes involved in their family. Duncan's best friend, who is a character that I absolutely adored and just rooted for throughout. And we're just kind of following what they all get up to. And it was just, I found it so sweet, and it was really uplifting. I really enjoyed it. And as I said, this just really set off my 2023 reading on a real high, and I'm really hoping that the same can be said for 2024. I have, the past few years, I've started off my reading year with a 5-star. Not intentionally planning that, but that's just what's happened. So I'm hoping that 2024 can be the same. But yeah, this one I just loved. I feel like if you are more of a character-driven person, then you could really enjoy this one, and you just root for all the characters, and they all become lovable by the end. At first you think you're not going to like them, but then as the story goes, you end up loving them all and all their relationships, and it's just so good. I really love this. Number 4 we have got The Grownup by Gillian Flynn. I have spoken about this one a lot as well on this channel, and I loved this so much. It's my favourite Gillian Flynn, and since my last video where I said I have one more Gillian Flynn to read, I have read that. So I have read all of her works, and this is my favourite of all of them. This is a short story of only 70-something pages, and those 70-something pages pack a real punch because this was so fun and so twisty, and I just loved it. We're following this woman who, she is a sex worker, but she ends up kind of changing career paths and becomes this psychic, a fake psychic at that. And this woman comes in to see her, and she essentially says that since they've moved into their home, she has had issues with her stepson, and she believes that it's something in the house that's causing them to have these problems. So our main character ends up going along with this, going to their house, trying to cleanse it, and it just goes from there, and it's completely wild, and I didn't expect any of it, and I just loved it so much. I remember the reading experience so vividly, and I actually captured it in a vlog. I think it was a vlog where I was trying to see how many books I could read over a weekend, and I filmed myself reading this because it only took, I think it took less than an hour, so I filmed myself reading it, the entire reading process of this, and capturing my reaction was just hilarious because there's one point where my jaw just hits the floor because I couldn't believe what was happening. It gives you whiplash, to be honest. You kind of don't really know what on earth is going on, but it's so fun and I loved it. My number 3 is Anxious People by Fredrik Backman. Fredrik Backman has become a favourite author of mine. I've only read 2 of his books. I read this and A Man Called Ove this year, and I just adored this so much that the writing in this has made me want to pick up every single book that Fredrik Backman has written. This one I loved because it just changed the way I think and really challenged the way I think as well, because I was having so many thoughts about these characters and stereotyping them, to be honest, and it really did kind of like shift my mindset. So this one is essentially following this situation where we have a bank robber and they end up going to hide, and they hide in this apartment, but it turns out that this apartment is actually having like an open house, so all these people are going to view the apartment to potentially buy it. So it kind of ends up being like a hostage situation. So we have a lot of characters in here, and Fredrik Backman does a really good job. So you get fed a little piece of information about them, which then makes you have these perceived ideas about them. You kind of think, oh, I know exactly what that person's like. And then in a few chapters later, there'll be another bit of information given which completely flips it on its head and makes you realise that you judged that character way too soon. And I just loved that, and it happened multiple times. There's one time particularly where I read a sentence and I was so shocked, and I was kind of annoyed at myself that I was so shocked by it, because it just meant that I had perceived something in such a way because of my own bias, which was interesting but also slightly annoying. But yeah, I love this one so much. There's definitely a found family aspect with this one, so maybe that's something I need to look out for in 2024, because it seems to have come up a couple of times here. But yeah, this one was incredible. The next one, if I had read this in any other year, I would absolutely say it's my favourite, but because my number 1 is my new favourite book of all time, that was never going to happen. But this one just tops so many books that I've read. It has become a favourite of all time, and it is Black Cake by Charmaine Wilkerson. This is just my perfect book, to be honest. It has so many things that I enjoy. We're partly set in a historical timeline and partly contemporary. We have a lot of family relationships explored in this, and there's also a little mystery element as well. So we are following this brother and sister who are kind of estranged. They haven't spoken for a little while, and their mother dies, and they have to come together and listen to their mum share her life story, essentially. So their mum has made this voice recording going through her life and telling them all these secrets that she had, which she never shared with them. And she has got a lot of secrets. This was just fantastic. We're partly set in Trinidad and partly in the US, and oh, I just adored it so much. It made me laugh, it made me cry, it made me smile. I just loved it. I don't want to say too much because I don't want to give anything away, but it just completely shocked me throughout, and it's just perfect for me. I feel like if you think you have a similar reading taste to me based on what you've heard throughout my videos before, then I'd definitely give this one a go because it's just so good. I loved it so much. Like I said, this tops so many books that I have read ever, and it would be my number one had I not read my new favourite book of all time. So my number one favourite book of the year is Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. I am so pleased that I read this book. I strangely had never known anything about it before. I've never seen any adaptations, I've never heard anything about it. So for me it was a real surprise, and I really didn't expect anything that happened in this book. We're essentially following Jane from when she's really young to the time that she gets married, and oh, it's just incredible. I found this book so romantic and it made me cry. I feel like that's also a common theme. I feel like a book needs to make me cry for me to absolutely love it. But this one, yeah, so romantic, so just amazing. I adore Jane as a character. I love Mr. Rochester. He's pretty much an asshole to begin with, but you kind of learn to love him. And everything that happened in this book, which I feel like most people know about, just completely shocked me. I didn't see it coming. So if you have never spoiled yourself for Jane Eyre, give it a go, read it. I think it's also a really accessible classic. I am intimidated by reading classics. That's why I was kind of a bit iffy about picking this one up. I didn't think I'd like it, but I found this one quite easy to read and get through. It didn't fly through it or anything, because I don't think I ever would fly through a classic unless it was really short, because the writing does take some adjusting, but compared to others that I have read, this one was a lot easier to read and get through. So I think if you are wanting to get into classics, this might be a good one to try. I just loved it so much, and now I want to watch all the adaptations that I can find, because I just want to experience this story again and again and again, because I just loved it so much. I don't think anything could ever top this, to be honest. I'll be very surprised if it did, because I just found it absolutely incredible and I loved it so much. So those are my favourite books of 2023. I would love to know your favourite book of 2023 in the comments down below, or maybe your top few favourites if you can't pick just one. But that is it from me today. I really hope that you enjoyed this video, and if you did, I'd love it if you could like and subscribe if you haven't already. I will see you in the next one. Bye, and Happy New Year.